If you started asking what a fractional CMO actually costs, you've probably run into something frustrating. The answers are all over the map. One person says $3,000 a month, another says $15,000, and a third quotes an hourly rate that makes your eyes water. So what does a fractional CMO really cost? And just as importantly, how do you know if you're getting a fair deal or quietly getting fleeced? That's exactly what I'm going to break down with real numbers and real ranges. No vague, it depends, actual figures you can take into a budget conversation. I'll give you the real headline number and why the hourly rate is the wrong thing to fixate on, what's actually included, the ramp to plan for, and how budget shifts by stage, the cost of not hiring almost everyone ignores, and what a good deal actually looks like. Let's get into it. Let's start with the number you came here for. The vast majority of fractional CMOs work on a monthly retainer, and that retainer typically lands between $5,000 and $15,000 a month, depending on scope and your company's stage. You've probably also seen hourly rates out there, usually $200 to $400 an hour. But here's the first thing to understand. An hourly rate is almost always a distraction. A good fractional CMO isn't selling you hours. They're selling you senior leadership and business outcomes delivered on a retainer. If someone quotes you purely by the hour and watches the clock, treat it as a yellow flag. You're probably about to hire a contractor and not an executive. So what moves you up or down inside that $5,000 to $15,000 range? A few things. First, the seniority and track record of the CMO. Someone who has scaled 3 companies in your exact niche is going to charge more than a generalist, and they're worth it. Second is the breadth of scope, owning all of the marketing costs more than owning one channel. And third, how many days a week do you actually need them? A half day a week advisory engagement and a 2-day a week hands-on leadership role, they're very different numbers. The second thing to understand is that the retainer isn't the entire cost of the engagement. A fractional CMO sets the strategy and leads the work, but they don't execute every task themselves. So your total cost usually includes a few pieces. The retainer, that buys the senior leader and what's underneath them. The execution layer, so the ads or the campaigns, the junior marketer, the agency, the handling the day-to-day, and the software and tools. The good news is a strong fractional CMO makes all of that spend far more efficient because they stop you from pouring money into the wrong channels. The classic mistake is comparing the retainer to a full-time CMO's salary and forgetting they also needed a whole team and budget underneath them. Compare the total system to the total system. A full-time CMO runs you $250,000 or more in salary alone. Closer to $300,000 if you load in bonuses, equity, and benefits. A fractional CMO gives you that same caliber of leadership for a fraction of that, which is why the whole model exists. Third, set realistic expectations around onboarding and ramp. A fractional CMO is fast, far faster than a full-time hire who needs 3 months to get settled, but not instant, and you shouldn't want them to be. In the first 2 to 4 weeks, expect a diagnosis, auditing what you have, talking to your team and your customers, understanding your numbers before changing anything. You're paying that retainer during that ramp, and that's completely normal. Honestly, if the CMO comes in and starts firing off tactics on day one, that's the one you want to worry about. But by the end of the first 30 to 60 days, you should have a clear written strategy and visible movement. So make sure you're budgeting for that ramp, but hold them accountable to real measurable outcomes by the end of the first quarter. Fourth, the part that most buyers really came for, how the budget shifts your company by stage. If you're early seed stage or pre-revenue, you're typically at the lower end, roughly $5,000 to $7,000 a month for a lighter touch engagement, often a day, a week, or less. If you're a growth stage company in the $5 to $20 million range, you're usually looking at $6,000 to $10,000 a month because the scope, but more importantly, the stakes are bigger. And if you're scaling in the $20 to $50 million range, you might be at $8,000 to $15,000 a month or more because you need that heavier hand and you have a bigger team to lead. These are realistic starting ranges. They're not a hard rule. Your industry and your needs will move that number, but they're going to give you an honest place to start from instead of flying blind. And lastly, this is the reframe that matters more than any single number. Weigh the cost of hiring against the cost of not hiring. It's easy to look at $8,000 a month and absolutely flinch. But the harder question, what is it costing you right now to run marketing with no senior strategy at all? Think about the ad budget you're burning on the wrong channels, the junior marketers who are spinning their wheels in no direction, or the growth that stalled and the quarters you've missed because no one senior was steering the ship. The real comparison isn't 8,000 versus zero. It's 8,000 versus the much larger amount you're quietly bleeding every month without a strategy. And for most companies in this position, the fractional CMO is the cheaper option. They just haven't done the math yet. If disorganized marketing wastes even $5,000 a month in misdirected spend and lost pipeline, that's $60,000 a year that's just evaporating quietly. No one is accountable for that. So what does a good deal look like? It is emphatically not the cheapest retainer you can find. A $3,000 fractional CMO who's just really a junior marketer with an inflated title is going to cost you far more in wasted time and budget than a great one at triple the price. A good deal has a clearly defined scope so you know exactly what they own. It's a genuinely senior operator with relevant experience in your specific space, not a generalist who dabbles. It's a retainer tied to outcomes and a written roadmap, not just a pile of hours. And it has a clear roadmap with built-in accountability so you know within 90 days whether it's working. The single biggest red flag to watch for, a fractional CMO who can't tell you specifically what outcome they will be held accountable for. If the whole pitch is activity, I'll run your campaigns, I'll manage your social, I'll handle your email campaigns, with no ownership of an actual number, you haven't found an executive. You've found a contractor wearing an executive title. So let me make this concrete. Let's say you're a $12 million company and you bring on a fractional CMO at $8,000 a month, $96,000 a year. In isolation, yes, that sounds like a lot. But in the first 2 quarters, they kill 2 underperforming channels, quietly eating $4,000 a month between them. They refocus your 2-person marketing team so they're finally productive instead of busy, and builds a pipeline plan that lifts qualified leads by 30%. The retainer didn't actually add cost. It redirected money you were already spending and unlocked growth you were already paying for, but just weren't getting the results from. That $4,000 a month they stopped wasting is a $48,000 a year. Half of the retainer is covered by the waste they eliminated, and that's before even a new single lead came through the door. That's what cost really means here. Not an expense bolted on top, but a leader who makes every dollar work harder. So now you know what a fractional CMO really costs. It's a monthly retainer, usually between $5,000 and $15,000, depending on your stage, plus the execution it directs underneath. And it's always cheaper than running with no strategy at all. The number that matters isn't the retainer in isolation, it's the retainer against everything you're quietly wasting right now without senior leadership. But knowing the price is only half of the decision. The other half is knowing if your company is actually at a point where it makes sense in the first place. I broke down the exact signals to tell if you're ready. And just as importantly, the ones that are going to tell you that it's not ready yet. Go watch this video next. Should I hire a fractional CMO? And then you'll know for sure.